Hello and welcome to the DrivingMaul show. Hi, I'll be your host this evening. And yes, round 3 of Super Rugby action is in the can. Yes, I know this is Sunday evening at 8 p.m. But I've fortunately, I'm busy tomorrow night on our normal Monday slot. And so hence we're going at 24 hours earlier again this week. This should be the last week, folks. I think I should be back, hopefully, to the normal, whatever it is called, schedule thing. You know what, programming. We're professionals here. We have programs and schedules and all sorts of stuff. Unlike over on Cornflakes channel, where he just publishes whenever he feels like it. How you doing, Stu?
That's the best way to do it, isn't it? Just do what makes you happy. Do it as you feel, and spend the whole day watching WWE PLEs instead. And I've forgotten completely what happened in the weekend because wow, some people will know what I'm talking about.
No, I've got a clue. What are you watching today? PLEs.
PLEs. Yeah, they don't call them pay-per-views anymure. They're PLEs.
Oh,
yeah. So It's a premium live event because you don't pay for it anymore. So that's my Sunday afternoon. So look, we'll try remember back 24 hours to watch some rugby.
Oh, dearie me. See, the Rock has been slamming down on Stone Cold Austin, or whoever it is that fights in that thing anymore nowadays.
No comment.
And Stephen up in Auckland there, still with your big the sky blue background there from Northland. How are you doing, sir?
Very good, thank you, sir, and good evening to your listeners. Good evening, Cornflake. Yeah, no, it's been a pretty good weekend up here in Auckland. Nice warm weather as we go into the first week of autumn. Hopefully, it can continue at least for a few more weeks and before the winter kicks in. I must admit, it's starting to get a little bit dark in the morning, but generally been a pretty good day. Had a good catch up with All Black and Chiefs legend Lilia Masanga yesterday. Quite the character is Lilia. He played. He told me he played 92 games for the Chiefs, and luckily part of that team that won the title way back in, what was it, 2011, 2012, around about that. Seemed like such a long time ago, but boy, some of the names that he was rattling off, pretty impressive. And these days a tutor up at Westlake Boys High School. So yeah, looking pretty well, I got to say.
The champions in, oh dear, trying to find the list where it was. Where did they finish first? Okay, 2012 and 2013. Yes, that's right. Beating the Sharks and the Brumbies in the finals there back then. So yes, over a decade ago now since those ones. And I guess the question on everyone's lips is, can Clayton McMillan do it in his final year as head coach of the Chiefs? Because he has announced he is moving on at the end of this season. He is off up to Munster. Now, Cornflake, you watch. Actually, Stephen, both you guys watch some of the Northern Hemisphere stuff. Do Munster need a new coach? How are they doing up there? Do they? So it sounds like they got some sort of. You're both trying to pass the buck here. On this one, it sounds like they have some sort of interim coach since Graham Roundtree left them, and so he is. So Clayton McMillan going in there to do a bit of a fixing job apparently. Clayton always works a lot on culture, and tends to look at getting more than some of the parts out of a squad, and that's look, I mean, Munster got a strong culture up there anyway, so it'll be a good. I think it'd be a decent fit for him up there. With that, rather than heading.
Munster aren't doing too bad on the table though. Like the last few years, they've been consistently pretty good. So yeah, they need a new coach clearly, but I don't think they're in dire need of someone to save the club from. They're not Wales, are they, by any stretch? So a good look. It's what they do, don't they? They appoint good coaches, and look. What I've read people complaining, oh no, he's leaving, and they're like, oh, that's bad. New Zealand rugby loses all their coaches. No, look at history. Where do all the good All Black coaches come from? What do? They go overseas. This is good. This is part of the process. They've got to go overseas, get that experience wherever you go. And then they come back and then voila, look what they are. That's not what we've got now. We've gone away from that process. And are we getting the results? Is that whole process something they need to stick to? So we'll see. Expect them back, 5-6 years and back in the mix.
Yeah, so he's going on a 3-year contract. So we'll see when he'll actually be back. Apparently, he did have a release clause, and he could have gone earlier. So because the conversations were during the summer, but no, he decided to see out his contract and then move over. So apparently, this was all part of his kind of plan. Look, he's been NPC head coach. He's the Super Rugby head coach. He's been head coach of the Maori All Blacks and also the All Blacks 15. So he's ticked off a lot of the boxes here. About the only one he's not done here has been the under-20s, I think, or headed over to women's rugby. So I think he's ticked over everything he can or wants to do, apart from obviously winning the silverware.
I was going to say, Paul, there was once upon a time they were pretty much the benchmark over there, weren't they, in Irish rugby? But now that Leinster has been dominating, they've sort of come back to the pack a bit, and pretty even Stevens between them. And who's the other two sides? Ulster and Connacht, who are the other sides in Irish rugby. So yeah, he's got it's kind of a bit of a hospital pass for me, but it kind of is, because I don't see Leinster's strength sort of debate, how can I say, basically falling off the earth anytime soon. They still look a pretty strong side, but man, if he can get them up to their standard and take them back as the number one Irish team, hey, that'll speak volumes about him as a coach.
Yeah, look, and I guess the name I would have thought would have been kind of the automatic one would have been Ronan O'Gara. Look, ex-Munster legend. Would he go there before taking on the Ireland job? But he's been talking about the Australia job, hasn't he? So obviously it looks like he's looking for a decent international position, because he said he wasn't interested in Wales. So I can understand. So yeah, maybe he doesn't want another club position. Maybe he's looking at going international next before moving on to try and get the Ireland job, I guess. But we'll have to wait and see on that one.
A bit of the talk around in the Discord chat from the Northern Hemisphere guys in there, a bit of surprise that it wasn't Felix Jones that picked up that position. So another name to bandy about as well.
I got to say, I thought Felix Jones was basically had a bad rep since being head coach of Canada, didn't he? And no, totally wrong person entirely.
You're thinking of Phil Kingsley, aren't you?
Yes, thank you.
No, Felix Jones is South African. He's been in and about attack coaches, pretty highly regarded over there.
Oh yeah, looks so you say technical coach at Munster, backs coach at Munster, coaching as a consultant at South Africa, assistant coach at England before going on being assistant coach at South Africa. So yeah, no, as you say, yep. Building a good resume there, but all of those as assistant coaches. So yeah, at some point, either he's going to have to be happy doing that, or he's going to have to take a head coach something at some point in there. Look, the expectation is going to be very high on him. On Sunrise that's very true. On that one over there. Any other pieces of news before we kind of head towards Super Rugby?
I suppose we should just wrap up the Six Nations pool. That final game last Monday, of course, Italy struck. Well, they did all right for the first half of that game, but eventually France far too good, weren't they? 73-24, but it was only 21-17 after a half hour, and the Italians did get off to a good start, but once again, it just sort of proves the gulf between maybe the top 3.5 sides, and I say 3.5 because I don't know if Scotland are quite at the level of the other three sides at the minute. But it just shows you how strong France are at the moment. So much depth, and boy, they play rugby that's pretty easy on the eye, you got to say. Yes,
but they always seem to trip up, don't they? And like they lost to England this time, they lost someone last year. They're not actually picking up. This is a golden generation of French players, but they're not picking up silverware at the moment. Quarterfinal at the Rugby World Cup as well. So yeah, it's we talk about or there's been talk of has the Scottish golden generation been wasted, and they've not actually achieved anything. you could argue that something similar is Fabien Galtier is doing something similar with the French one at the moment. I'll be honest. When I saw the score at 24-73, I couldn't be asked to go back and watch it. I just thought, you know what, that's one-way traffic. I'm not that interested in that kind of game personally, or that kind of scoreline.
Hey, you watched the first half. The first half was pretty entertaining. When Italy go, they go. They're one of those teams. I feel like if they can put together and like those little stanzas and they play really, really well, the 10, 15 minutes, they can do that for 80 minutes one day, ever, maybe, possibly. They could trip up a lot of teams, or if they can just have that little blitz of really goodness and then not completely fall off the side of a cliff defensively. If they can merge those two together, would be quite nice. And since we're talking about other results, one that I'm surprised, where is he? He's not in the chat yet. That's why we haven't had it in the chat yet. But Spain have beaten Portugal in the semi-finals of the of Rugby Europe Championship. So Spain have kicked Portugal's ass and they're gone, burger. So see you later. It's all about Spain. They're going to be the up-and-comers. They're the amazing. It was a big score too. It was a Super Rugby score, 42-31. So yeah, Europe's gone off. So
does that mean that because that's the
semi-final.
The continental quarterfinals, I think it was qualifiers. Sorry, yes. On that one. So, but I think Portugal are already through to the. Are they already through to the Rugby World Cup? I think.
Oh well, that's where it gets too confusing for me. They lost to Spain. Spain's now the chief. Spain's now the chief shocker of World Rugby. I want to see more Spain.
You want to see?
Hey, look, Portugal's not a bad team, right? You look at that, and you look at the names too. They didn't play a crap team. Like they had all the big guns in there that even a part-time World Cup watcher would know. So hey, that was a really good performance from Spain, and to put those points up, to score a lot of tries. It seems Europe is adopting the score more points than the opposition and don't worry about tackling them.
Yeah. Yeah, so they're into the bronze final now. Portugal against either Georgia or Romania, and obviously Spain will play the winner of that game. That's
a bit tasty.
Final.
And I've got to say, guys, their rugby's on a bit of a high because they're sitting on the Sevens circuit. They're actually sitting in second place on 64 points behind Argentina, who's sitting on 68, and little old New Zealand there sitting down there in seventh place on
don't look.
On 38 points. So yeah, cast your eyes away, people. not good.
So I think all four of those teams qualify as European 1, 2, 3, and 4 out of Portugal, Spain, Georgia, Romania. It's just the order that we have to find out now. With I think the winner out of something else will go in as the heading off to the FQT, which is some sort of special repechage kind of thingamajig that's also going on. It's not called the F. What's it called? FU. Anyway, whatever the final qualifying tournament as well on that one. So all four through. So Portugal don't have to worry too much about that. We will get our sort of our little shot in the arm of Portuguese rugby at the Rugby World Cup. At least, plus the Spanish side, who may or may not bring in some extra players from overseas. Who knows? As is. So the other piece of news I was going to kind of go with, we'll have a quick chat about before going into this was now that Super Rugby actually produced gives out some injury tables. It's kind of scary as to how many players are actually currently injured in across the 11 Super Rugby teams. There are 79 players listed as being injured across the 11 teams. The worst being the Hurricanes with 12. And let's be honest, those 12. That's you've included in that 12. You've got Brett Cameron for the season, Devon Flanders until round 14. The TJ Clark until round 9. Daniel Sinkinson round 8. Lucas Cashmore and Ruben Love and also Riley Higgins round 7. So long, not just injuries, but also long-term ones for the Hurricanes in in that one. But which team do you think is best placed with the least injuries?
Oh, yeah, possibly the Chiefs at the moment. They obviously get. I think Sean Stevenson gets back from Japan apparently tomorrow morning. D-Max probably a little bit of a concern. And
I'm talking, this is all going into the weekend, going into round 3. So this is before the weekend. This is my list stuff.
Oh, okay, before the weekend.
So before that, basically, the Waratahs. The Waratahs only have 400 players, apparently. And the Fijian and Drua only with 5 as well. So that's the bottom end. But I say at the top end, you've got the Hurricanes with 12 and the Western Force with 11 as well.
I was going to say, Cornflake, don't you like it when he asks you a question that he already knew the answer to?
Absolutely. It's been like a quiz.
Seriously?
I was going to guess the Western Force anyway. They second worst. So don't even talk to me.
Yeah, see, that would have been an absolute waste of 5 minutes. You should have just said who was injured and then moved on.
Oh dear. Okay, then I'll give you the list then. Brumbies 9, Blues 8, Chiefs 8, Fijian Drua 5, Islanders 6, Hurricanes 12, Moana Pacifica 9, Waratahs 4, Western Force 11, and Queensland Reds 7. So there you go. There's your injury update, folks. And now we can wake Stephen Harris back up and head into the rugby, I guess. So we kicked off the weekend then with, and I did this during the commentary. It's like we're into Moana Pacifica's permanent home. It's like you don't say permanent home for anyone else, do you? And you don't make this big deal about the fact that about a team has actually got a stadium for the whole season and don't have to be moving the whole time. But no, they were real big in this round about making it clear this was the Moana Pacifica in their permanent home for the first time, which was a bit of fun and games. The up against the Highlanders, and got to say, Moana Pacifica, for my mind, in this one were their own worst enemies. Sure, the Highlanders got out to that early lead of 10-0, but and that got evened up. But Havili, crucially, left his kicking boots somewhere. He definitely was not taking it. He definitely didn't have his kicking boots at home for this one, missing 3 conversions in this. And so at half time, it sort of blew out to 10-31 with an intercept try. Garden Bishop fumbling the ball, another turnover on their own line. Moana Pacifica basically just imploded at that point. So to say at halftime it was 10-31. The Highlanders, though, somehow just couldn't score in the second half at all. And Moana Pacifica showed a lot of character to come back and get very close to winning this one. Just kind of 2 points short, 29-31 in the end. Another missed kick in that second half by William Havili. 6 points left out there, and they lost by 2. Yes, a bit of a problem there with that one. And I will definitely say I'm coming round to Stephen Harris's opinion that the Garden Bishop should not be in this team. He had a bit of a shocker in this one for my mind. So, Stephen Harris, what were your takeaways or thoughts on this one?
From this particular, listen, at the end of the game, the Highlanders obviously did enough in the first half to win this game, no question. But my takeaways were, you spoke about goal kicking and how important it was before. I don't think Will Havili's been in good form at all because he's probably missed some very kickable kicks in the first 2 games, which could have actually got them across the line or taken them out of sight, especially in that first game. I can remember a missed conversion, which would have basically got them home, regardless of the Force scoring that try in the last minute. And there were certainly opportunities in the Reds game where he could have kicked points as well. I think for me the real big difference, especially in that first half, was the halves. And Nathan Hasty, who was a late replacement in this game, I thought controlled that ruck area just absolutely brilliantly, like a bit of an eye-opener when you didn't see Fakatava there, but as I messaged you, he was a late withdrawal. So I hope your voice managed to change your players out if you had Whakatava there. So I just think in that area, just the control in and around the halves area. But I'll tell you what, this game, the battle between Tavatava Nawai and Ari Savi at the breakdown, I think was just absolute box office. The way these two entered the breakdown. Boy, imagine them in the same team, guys. Be absolutely crazy. But listen, credit to the Highlanders, man. What I want to see more of is Tangitu and Manson in open space. You think back to the try that Talia scored, and boy, you can just put that down to Manson's pace, the ability to get round the outside, get back on the inside, and just streak past players like they weren't standing there and easy running for Talia. And boy, Tangitu, when you see him take that intercept, nobody was going to catch him from that standing start. So it was just all about taking your opportunities. I have got a little bit of a bugbear or a bone to pick with the officials, but I think it's important that we do sort of focus on the majority of the game, because once again, it was a really good contest. You got to love the way that Moana came back, and boy, Ari Savia, he was doing everything he could to win that game. And I thought there was a nice little change when Mataveo and Periglini came on in the second half, because they just sort of brought a little bit more control, and Periglini with his goal kicking a little bit more accurate than Will Havili at the moment. There's probably a lot to think about there for Tana Umaga being forward, but credit to the Highlanders. I reckon a year ago, I don't think they win this game, but they get across the line on this occasion.
And Cornflake, your team getting across for those on the podcast who are for the audio listeners, Cornflake's clapping Stephen's comments there. Happy with your Highlanders?
Well, I will emphasise his sentiments towards the halves. I picked on Tane Robinson. Like at the start of the season, we were going, who's this guy? And the Highlanders got a real problem with an inexperienced kind of no-name number 10 running the show. Where's Cam Miller? Again, a big shame. Cam Miller coming on and getting, defensively getting smoked and going straight back off the field on a cart. So it's sad for him to be leaving the field. But look, Tane Robinson, to me, it's really doing a great job, because you watch that game and it's sure he's not doing anything amazing, but you're not actually pinpointing him for doing anything poorly. He's just doing his job. He's distributing, he's kicking, he's just doing what he has to do. I think you look at that and it's very much he's getting no raps for that whatsoever. Yeah, he's just doing his job, and everyone's going, "Oh, Tavatava Nawai's brilliant." Tangi Tau's doing outstanding stuff. Hey, props to that guy. He's holding down that number 10 jersey, which is an absolute nightmare of a position to be in any team. So I've pinpointed him as an absolute champion guy in that team that's just taken that role right from round one and bring a brilliant asset to the side. But look, for me, those late changes.
One of the reasons we were kind of concerned about this one is you've got a rookie 10, you've got a player, you've got a winger playing at 12 in terms of Nawai guys totally inexperienced in that position. Was our thoughts, and as we've seen, we've got these rookie nines turning up as well. To have basically your brains trust, so people who are supposed to run the game with no experience at this level, where everything in theory they've got less time than they used to, everything's quicker than they used to, and you say he's been thrown in the deep end and hasn't drowned, which has been great.
Isn't this the season, Super Rugby season, of debutants being amazing? Like all these players who are, coming from nowhere, their first season, inexperienced. I mean, I look at games later on this weekend, and I like it teams with so much experience, and it's the inexperienced players who are stepping up, and it's experienced players who would normally be like, they're the ones I'm relying on to drag my team or this team or that team forward, that aren't, pulling their weight, to use probably a bad term for some of them. But to me, I look at guys like this, and throughout the whole season, it's been like that for the youngsters. But in the match for me, that turning point, well, there was a 14-point try, that Tangitau intercept. I think that made a massive difference. Moana were going to score there. If he didn't snatch that away and run that 100 meters, I think that could change the game massively. And to go twice in a row and score again straight after that, a game goes from being within a couple of points to bang, they're out to a 24-10 lead. Oh, it's tied, wasn't it? It was 10-10 at that point.
Yep.
And then it's 24-10. That's your game in a nutshell. Fell asleep in the second half. A bit of a shame. But again, to me, like Stephen said, that credits Moana, especially Salvia, the way he led that team, the way that team they built. They didn't get worried and concerned and freak out and lose their composure. They just accumulated. The Highlanders really struggled to do anything. And look, if you're going to pick on Garden Basher, Pellegrini was outstandanding. That's a change you've got to make next week. He was just phenomenal. He attacked the line faster. He was dangerous. His goal kicking was ace. He changed how that team attacked. So I think, again, like you say, if I'm picking a team from Moana next weekend, I'm looking for that change, especially in those halves. As good as Garden Basher has tried to do, he certainly wasn't at the race. I think he's progressively under a bit more pressure to keep that jersey on his side.
Yeah, look, I mean, once we go 21% of the time we're in, I think it is, if I got this right, we're in the Highlanders 22. I mean, that's a massive amount, and to not come away with the points, 53% possession as well. They had the possession, they had the territory to win this game, but the stat that jumps out is 21 turnovers compared to 16 for Moana Pacifica, and that's, if you're turning that ball over that often, then every 4 minutes, that's not good. And yeah, Tomato and our way, a big part of that, obviously, at the breakdown.
Paula, player, I just quickly want to touch on, who's a really real grafter in that Moana pick is Tom Savage. Boy, he does all his basics really well. And there was a lot of talk about him, what's he in his mid to late 30s, but he just adds so much value and experience and headiness to this Pacifica type 5. Also, special mention to Tupo.
Unfortunately, he was not awake on one of the breaks, and one of the for the ball. There was a break where he got past him and he wasn't ready for it, and he dropped it. It's like, oh no! But yes, otherwise, good player.
Mate, that's going to happen. I mean, to say he's got a gel with the way that these guys play. But I was just going to say, I was really impressed with Tupo Tealoi. I mean, to say he had a great season for Southland Stags last year, impressed a lot of people. There was a lot of talk that he didn't get a contract with the New Zealand contracted side. But the great part of this story, he actually came into the wider training squad, and through injury, he's taken his opportunity. Boom. Man, this is, if you're a Southland Stags supporter, you'd be absolutely stoked at the way some of your boys are going at the moment. Cornflake, they really are going great, aren't they?
Yeah, look, Southland's broken out this year. I think a lot of teams have noticed. I think it goes throughout the whole NPC, right? A lot of the smaller unions have got a lot of players plucked to all sorts of parts, because I think depth was really growing strong throughout the season. But look, to me, to cap this game, you take out that 10 minutes that the Highlanders went bananas and scored those tries, Moana wins this comfortably, right? It's not close. It's not even close. And it's, from a Moana perspective of this match, it's like, if you can keep concentration of that second 40 or even that, that first 20 where it was 10-10, they're in that fight, just don't completely lose it. You're winning games. But I do wonder if me and Stephen are reading off the same notes here, because I've pinpointed Savage. I thought he had a great game. I thought Mafalea was strong, but Pellegrini off the bench as well. Malo, again, I think getting better. And of course, Salvia. But one for the Highlanders, I think that we've not mentioned, that I thought was really, really good. Hasty was outstanding. Tangi Tau against superb. Tavatava Nawai, same names. But Vasanga, I think he had an outstanding match in the back row. So he was one for me. I think that's, as he's played more and more, he's getting more and more prominent to how this pack performs. And I think he's just going to get better and better as the season goes on if he keeps up this sort of performance. So, yeah, look, tight game, close game. I think there'll be a lot to learn from both teams, but for the Highlanders to pick out that win in a tight match, not lose it at the end, AK Waratahs, that's good. Confidence should be high.
Yeah, look, they and one of the areas you'd think the Moana would struggle is discipline. 4 penalties compared to 12 given away by the Highlanders. So all the stats are pointing in the right direction, but they just turned it over and had that 10 minutes where they just where the Landers blew things out. Moving across the ditch then to the Waratahs versus the Drua. the Drua putting in a fine performance the previous weekend away from home, and so all of that kind of that talk of on the road they're a struggle, but in this one, say again, went close against the Tars. The Tars got the opening. Sorry, the Drua went ahead. It was a bit of a ding dong backwards and forwards in that first half, with tries from both sides, with the Tars just edging out 17-12 at half time on that one. Come the second half, and a Parecki try meant that the Tars managed to pull out to a 2-score lead, but a yellow card hampered them, and the Drua took advantage of that, scoring 2 tries. Actually, the second one was just after he came back, but Scots got themselves a 2-point lead at 22-24 going into the closing minutes, only for a collapsed rolling maul from memory for penalty try. Unfortunately, was the end of it for them, losing a player as well to the bin as part of that, as we do with penalty tries. I do not understand why commentators keep getting surprised when he's done a penalty try. Oh, and he's also going to give a card. They always do in this one. Average getting 16,000 to the game so far. That's also a good crowd as well. So yes, the Tars leading at half time, but trailing late on, getting that late win for them, which is a cracking result for them. And the Drew are now 0-3 so far after these 2 games on the road. Cornflake, what did you think of your thoughts from this one?
Look, it's clear the Draw were robbed. They were absolutely robbed. It's controversial. No, look, the Draw could be sitting here very easily saying we are 3-0. Instead, they sit here and saying we're 0-3. They've been so good all season long, and they've got so many good parts about their game that are developing really, really well. I thought in this match, with the forwards especially, I think is somewhere where Fijian sides have typically struggled with. I thought at times they defended the Waratahs maul really, really well. Obviously, it cost them at the end, but especially in that first half, they were under a lot of pressure there from their forward pack. But it's just the errors, a lot of errors in that first 40 minutes, and it was a bit weird to go with halftime at a Super Rugby game with only 29 points in the bank. Where's all the tries? Where's all the entertainment? It was just a bit of a battle. And second half comes along, discipline, costing the Tars. And look, this is what's good about the Drawer this season. They're actually taking those opportunities. They're scoring points and being competitive on the road, which is huge, massive. The game, though, they were dominating for so long, weren't they? Second half of the Draw, scoring points, they were in the game. It looked like they were going to win that for sure. And that whole momentum swing at the end, just the whole thing just flipped completely on its head. Balls are sealed from the referee. Whether it's an outright penalty try or not, that's still ballsy to call that as a penalty try. It's such a decisive moment like that. But yeah, entertaining game, and I'm really pleased to see the Draw competing in positions to win games. Now they just got to take that next step and actually convert that into victories. Don't make those silly errors at the end. But yeah, good to see them actually out there and putting in some good performances, and on the road especially.
Yeah, this one was a bit scrappy. Look, 5 lineouts lost in this game across the 2 teams. Another 3 scrums lost. On the discipline side, 24 penalties, so quite a lot of whistle blowing in this one as well. So yeah, a bit more bitty, and not than the previous one from that point of view. And the whistle could have been blown a few more times. I mean, Stephen Harris has forwarded me. As the direction I thought you were going in, Stephen. Steve Cornflake, with the they were robbed. Was more around that some things weren't called, and there was definitely one egregious one that could have been. But things do get.
I'm too old. I'm too old to pick holes in every individual little thing now. I'm just here to enjoy the spectacle, man. You can stay here for hours, and you can pick out probably 50 more penalties in each game. I just don't like that anymore. I want to watch. I want to see a spectacle. I kind of like, and people will hate it, but I like the fact now that we're a bit more common sense about the calls. Like there's so many things where 2 years ago you would have gone, yellow card, I'll go get a coffee while they look at it 300 times and ultimately come to the same decision. I feel like now they're being a bit more smart about it, and I feel it's making the game a bit better.
Well, you're too old, even though being the youngest of us. I'll leave it to the oldest guy who isn't too old to complain about refs to go for it.
I think we probably should leave, if we've got time at the end, just to maybe discuss a few things. I just want to say with the draw, they've got to learn how to close these games out. First game, they let the Brumbies score in the 75th minute. Last weekend, once again, they let did they play the Reeds last weekend? Did they play last weekend? Sorry,
Hurricanes last weekend with a 76 minutes.
76 minute this week, 77th minute. They've just got to learn basically in what areas to actually play the game. And once again, if you think back to this opportunity they gave for the Waratahs, trying to move the ball around about halfway wider away from their forwards. There's a mistake. There's a mistake made. They give away a penalty. Don't give away a penalty. They turn the ball over. It gets kicked into the corner, and of course, once it got kicked to the corner, you kind of knew what was going to happen. Where I think they should have played it a little bit tighter with their forwards and just back their forwards to run the clock down. I know it's not always an easy thing to do, but I think it's something that they've got to look at. Yes, they're taking their opportunities better, but like I said last weekend, they don't want to be the losing entertainers in this competition. Yeah, great to watch, but if you're serious about making a play to be the top dog in this competition, you have got to be mentally tougher than this.
Yeah, and a lot less kicks in this one as well than the Moana Highlanders. Perhaps that's because Soalihi wasn't available for the task. So they actually tried to attack him more than just one way, of kicking towards one wing. They did try early on with I've forgotten his name now. The other young guy, Jorgensen. But yeah, they didn't. At least they didn't persist with it continuously like they did in the opening weekend of games. So look, already we've had 2 games here, and actually 4 out of the 5 games were won by a single score. So yeah, it was a close round of games this weekend. The one that wasn't though was the Chiefs versus the.
Can I point out one player from the Waratahs that I thought was an outstanding newcomer, since we're all pointing out our newcomers? O'Donnell in the midfield. Look, I saw him at the start of the game coming in and replacing Suali, like you said. He was really good. Like, I was surprised. I thought there'd be an area they could attack and an area of weaknesses. I thought he was really, really strong. So I'm kind of excited to see a bit more of him. I hope he gets some more chances for the Waratahs. I thought Gleeson had a cracking game as well. And I'm going to pick out someone for the draw. I thought Darren Alangi was outstanding for the team, as well as their back three, as always, like with the Fijian side as well. And I really like their 10 combo with Munson, Armstrong, Ravula. I don't really know who I want to see start and who I want to see come off the bench, because they both really work well. But I like that they got that depth to come on. But yeah, give me some more O'Donnell, Waratahs fans. I want to see what he can do long form.
And yes, Nocturne Rights brings up a good one again. Glenn Jackson was asked, what's harder, playing, reffing, or coaching? And his answer was watching the reffing. So yes, nicely put by him in that way. Rugby Rumble reckons that Armstrong Ravulu is way better. Look, Munson's been did a whole bunch of good stuff last year, and I was a bit surprised that he wasn't starting earlier in this season. So we'll have to see how they how they juggle those two there. But developing both of them for the international team is also a good thing, rather than just sticking with one. Okay, then the Chiefs versus the Brumbies then. At half-time, 15-all, with Frost getting the opening try by basically being up against. If we put a lock against number 9, and they stand next to each other and then just fall over, he can reach and hit and get the try. So it's a bit harsh on Cortez. Xavier Rowe or Cortez Ratman that was on at that point. I'm not sure, but anyway, either way, really harsh on Ratimer there to be tackling a out on the wing on your own, tackling a lock about 3 meters from the line. He could just reach over you and just put it down, which is what he did. So early try there by the Brumbies to take the lead. But Anton Leonard-Brown, the forgotten man of the New Zealand centres, there got himself a try, as did Jacob to put the Chiefs back into the lead. A couple more tries from the Brumbies, including one by Toole. I mean, wow! I'd forgotten he knew how to score tries there. Sorry. To put that into context, folks, I picked him as one of my players in my fantasy team for the first 2 rounds, and he didn't score a thing. I was this round, but thankfully he did for me this round at last. So at half time, it was 15-all. You're thinking, hey, the sort of top team that's been recently in Australia is going to give this Chiefs team a run for their money. And then the second half happens, and a couple of tries by the Chiefs. You think, okay, they're walking away with this now. I need for the Brumbies to come back again. So we're an hour in, 29-all, but Gideon Rampling, this coming off the bench, and basically every time he touches the ball, scoring a try. He had very few touches, but he came away with 2 tries from this one. So that then taking sensible penalties saw them closing out the game at 42-34. They took a 2-score lead into there. That meant the Brumbies were pushing, basically throwing the ball around just outside their own try line, trying to get the length of the pitch to get a losing bonus point. They cough it up. Anton Leonard-Brown gets his second try, and suddenly it looks like an absolute blowout at 49-34. It was a lot closer than the actual scoreline suggests, folks. This looks like, and after the Chiefs' opening 2 rounds where they've had big wins, this one looks also like one where they just kind of blitzed and sort of pushed on. I say after halftime it looked like that, but no. Longren, Muirhead got those tries, and the Brumbies managed to pin them back. So Brumbies with a bit more backbone than perhaps we thought from this one going to this one. Mr. Harris.
Yeah, they listen. I thought as an away performance, it was an improvement on anything that we actually saw from them last year. But they obviously showed in the very first game where they beat the Drua away that there's a little bit more steel about the side. They're still missing the likes of Rob Valentini and Hooper at the moment. They're 2 real big ball carriers in the loose forward. But I thought Luke Roma was just absolutely outstanding while he was on the field. But took a knock, and you could see he was struggling for about 10 minutes. And it's sort of quite ironic. Round about the time the Chiefs sort of unloaded their bench, I thought that was one of the real differences as well, the way that bench performed. But I always thought it was one of those games that the Chiefs could, if they really wanted to score, they could find a try somewhere. Despite the Brumbies coming back to 29 apiece with about 17 minutes to go. Once again, I'm going to highlight the importance of goal kicking. Three missed conversions by Lonergan could have had them leading 21-15 at halftime. And when they did score, the points might have just given them a little bit of scoreboard pressure. But credit to the Chiefs, there were some really outstanding individual performances, not more than Quintu Paia. Oh my word, the guy is absolutely on fire. Probably one of the better games I've seen from Summer Penny for now. I mean to say, finally using that big 6'4" bulk that he's actually got running over people. One memorable one, I think he ran over poor old Nick Frost. I think it might have been. I think they're still digging him out of FMG Stadium at this stage, sort of thing. I thought there was some really good performance, and he teams up really well with Anton Leonard-Brown as well, and of course DMAC. Well, he's just capable of that brilliance. We all thought we were going to see something special there, but it took a world-class bit of defending from Tom Wright to save the try. There was a question asked today on the social network, what was better, the actual run or the save? I've got to say the save, because 99% out of 9 times that try is basically scored. So the whole DMAC over the line was pretty. To
me, I thought DMAC should have been looking for support rather than but on the right. But there you go.
Yeah, I know. He probably just backed himself and really didn't see it. Just shows you how quick Wright is on the cover. Probably just didn't see him coming out of the corner of his eye, and they just did enough work. I think Corey Toole also got back there to help as well. So it was really impressive. But I suppose for the Chiefs, the big thing, two sort of takeaways, DMAC's injury, and hey, listen, great to see Samasoni Takiaho back on the field as well. And like I say, I talk about their bench. Their bench gave them a lot of impact, and it's been doing that in 2025, hasn't it, guys?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the second halves where they've been blowing teams away. Let's be honest. It looked like they were going to do it again in this one, but I say the Brumbies managed to stem that tide. The injury to DMAC is definitely worrying. Not for Cornflake, obviously, he's shaking his head. For every single other fantasy league manager he is, because I think Cornflake's the only person who hasn't put DMAC as the 10 because on that one, because he did actually get beaten by Jacob this week. Jacob got one more point than he did, which was but so they were first. It's funny, isn't it? The first and second highest scoring number 10s both played to the Chiefs this weekend. Which I think it's kind of amusing from that one. Go on, Cornflake.
Well, I have an argument to that because Tommy Liner only played 40 minutes and got 39 points. So can we just say based on points per minute, my selection was technically, would have scored more points over 80 minutes. Yeah, and look, we'll talk about him more later on, but I've got a lot of things to say about this matchup. Number one, they're short and sharp. Don't worry. Quinn Tupaia, All Black 12. I don't know who Geordie Barrett or Rico Ioane are because we'll talk more about the latter. That combination looks rather grim right now. Yes.
Tautavanawa isn't the All Blacks 12?
Well, we'll see who goes 12 and 13. We'll just do the usual. We'll put 2 12s or 2 13s like the All Blacks always do. We don't really care what position is their best. We just put the best players in there, don't we? Look, even compared to Tautavanawa, I think Quinn Tupaia is having the season of his life. I'll put Tautavanawa on the bench. I think Tupaia is just, look, he's killing everyone in that midfield. It's not even close. Yes, more add on to Tupaia there.
No, I agree. So, I agree.
Okay.
He's having the season of his life. Absolutely. He's
That's
really
cool. We'll move on.
2 seasons ago, he was injured. Last season, I think part of was getting over that and getting confident in his body again. And this year, we're seeing the real player come through.
If you're the Wallabies coach, I don't want to help you pick your back row. That's all I'll already say about that because Kale and Reimer are playing out of their skin, not to mention all the other 6, 7, 8s that are running around Australian rugby right now. But the thing is with the Brumbies, look, Stephen nailed this match pretty much with what he said all around on the actual game thing. But I concern myself, look, that the pack's going all right. It's not the Brumbies of the last year or the year before in terms of their pack by any stretch. But I just worry now that with Lolosio out for 2 or 3 rounds with that concussion he's got, and it just seems like for Lonergan, it's taking a lot of that pressure. He's taking a lot more ball out. And I feel like players like Ihitau and Muirhead are taking a lot more of that pressure around that sort of first receiver / playmaker, option taker role in the Brumbies is hurting them a little bit. And I see Debrasini come off the bench, and I just go, I don't rate Debrasini as being fantastic, and I do like giving young guys a chance. But I just wonder if maybe starting the game and getting the team off on a better foot might be the job for Debrasini here, and then give the youngsters, the chance to close the game out, or maybe put Debrasini on a bit sooner. I feel like that is hurting them a little bit and making guys inside and out do more work and take on more pressure and more roles, which is hurting them a little bit. But yeah, they never gave up, did they? And that was what was really pleasing about this. Like you said, the Chiefs went out, scored a couple of tries. I was like, yep, okay, this game's done. Then, okay, hello, the Brumbies are back. And much like what I spoke about the other teams with players, experienced players not stepping up, I think the Brumbies are the exception. Like their guys, their key guys are stepping up. Like you said, the Tom Wrights, like the Kales, Frosts, Wallabies, Ihitau's, Lonergan's, guys have been there for a few years. These guys really, really are stepping up and taking this team forward as best they can, but they're just lacking 1 or 2 little things. Rampling looks good. I'd like to see a bit more of him. He's a big unit, isn't he? I didn't really, he's just quite really that big. I've seen him before, but man, he looked really, really impressive. And finally, kickoff receiving. Be a great skill to nail, wouldn't it? For all teams. Wouldn't every team just love to nail their kickoff receipts? Because, man, there's been some points that have come straight off botched kickoff receipts this season. I think the Brumbies were really guilty of that one. But hey, this game, midfield, my key guys, Anton Brown, Quinn Tupaia, Josh Jacob, they were outstanding. And for me, that back row, Kale Reimer for the Brumbies, they were brilliant. But yeah, entertaining game. It was a bit weird again to only see 30 points at halftime, but they got their gear into it. And I think the Chiefs went to that kind of get points at any cost at the end there before that last try to Antonio Brown, taking the kicks, just looking to get that scoreboard up a bit with a couple of penalties. So, yeah, a really interesting game. But, yeah, scoreboard does not reflect it for the poor Brumbies.
No. So the key stat I'm going to bring out this one is missed tackles. 18 by... so the Chiefs made 164 tackles but missed 18. The Brumbies made 142 tackles, so 20 less tackles, but missed 34 tackles, so missed a lot more. And you can probably put a lot of that down to the running of Quinterpie and Angela Brown in that midfield as well. I think they probably did a lot of the busts there. But on the flip side, the breakdown, 6 lost rucks by the Chiefs compared to 2 by the Brumbies. So again, perhaps a bit more focus from the Chiefs on looking after their own ball from in that kind of space. Next up, then we head down to the capital for the Hurricanes taking on the Blues, and I'll be honest, I missed the sort of the opening parts of this. I was still at work for this one, but because by the time I'd arrived, they'd already we had more scores than we had. Sorry, we had more cards than we had scores in this one. After 22 minutes, we'd had 3 yellow cards and only 2 penalties. One was a penalty try, to be fair. So we had 2 scores and 3 yellow cards in the opening quarter of this, or quarter or so of this game. So actually two penalty tries in a weekend. That's pretty rare to see that one. Again, the Blues got out to a bit of a lead to 6-14. But that first half was as far as the Hurricanes were concerned was the Godfrey show, as he scored 19 points, strolling over, having a ball going backwards, which apparently is not what you're supposed to want as a number 10 or as a fullback. But he just ran it forward, went off and scored a try. And then a couple of penalties from himself meant that the Hurricanes only trailed by 2 points, 19-21 at half time. Come out the second half, Naholo. Well, it seems like that there is a in his contract as he has to be allowed to score 1 try every single game this year, because he got it was probably one of his easier tries. Let's be honest, this year for Naholo, and Godfrey's boot stretched the lead out, got them into the lead at 29 to 21. You're thinking, oh dear, this is starting to look a bit bad for the Blues. But Hoskins Tutu, first game of the season, comes in, gets himself a try, leading try scorer last year. Adding to that, Mark Talia scoring a try. Now, they're all waxing lyrical about how wonderful and great this try was. Why is it that defenders do not trust the defenders on the inside, right? And they always go, you know what? It's me and him. It's just going to be the 2 of us. And so I've got to try and take him down. You're up against one of the an all-black winger, one of the best wingers, a truly international class winger. What do? And you're 10 meters from the sideline. The sideline is not your friend at that point, right? You get yourself on his outside shoulder and you force him inside, where hopefully there's somebody else to tackle him. Because if he goes round you, there ain't no one tackling him out there because you're the last guy. You have to force him inside, and he didn't do that. He didn't get outside the guy. And to my mind, that defenders aren't doing that nowadays.
I was going to say, Paul, if you watch Mark Talia, normally 10 times out of 10, he actually steps inwards as to basically having a go at a player on the outside. I think, unfortunately for Riley Hohepa, I think he just got caught flat-footed at the time. And listen, I just like to think it's probably just individual brilliance. At the end of the day, recognised he was up against the first 5 and just absolutely gassed them. Would have been interesting to see if Harry Godfrey was actually defending in that situation a little bit more light-footed, shall we say, off either foot. there's probably so much to unpack in this game, but just
One more thing to round off before, because I went off on a tangent ranting about defenders not trusting their inside people. So 2-2 decided that, you know what, playing 75 minutes was enough for him for a few weeks, and head high, shoulder to the head, red card. Let's be honest, he's going to have about 3 weeks here on 3 weeks off again, I think, before he's back, I guess. So fancy managers, don't worry. Yeah, if you didn't get him this week, you're not going to be able to get him for a few weeks, because that was 2 upright, shoulder to the head with power. There was no mitigating circumstance, so I'm not surprised it was red. But it was all too late, and the Blues managed to keep the Hurricanes out. But start unpacking. Open that suitcase and start unpacking, Mr. Harris.
Yeah, well, it was a weird start to the game. You've got to say the official pretty much put his line in the sand very quickly, didn't he? In and around transgressions, and basically, unfortunately for the Hurricanes, their scrum was under the pump early. They'd been given warnings for giving away penalties inside the 22. Tialata goes off, and unfortunately for Rakati Stones, he was the victim of obviously a team penalty, down a man at scrum time, having to drop somebody off, and before you know it, they're down to 13 men. The Blues capitalise on that, but at that stage, this is what disappointed me about the Blues. They didn't like the game against the Highlanders. They didn't have that cutting edge to just go for the throat and just like, listen, we're gonna pile on these guys, and instead, what they actually do is actually let the Hurricanes back into the game. And basically, credit to the Hurricanes. I thought Harry Godfrey was outstanding, especially off the tee. Basically, they just kicked the points, won that clock, got themselves back into the game, and before you know it, the Blues are getting a player sent to the bin. And I've got to be honest, the style in which the Blues actually play doesn't always make for. It's not easy on the eye sometimes. It's incredibly effective. But if you turn ball over, if you've got a team that's willing to play a little bit of ball and move them around, you're going to put them under pressure as well. So about the best thing for me that happened in that game was halftime coming up. To be honest, there were some good individual performances in that first half, but it was sort of a game that, I don't know. It's just, for me, it didn't reach great heights. I thought out of all the games we saw this weekend, it was probably the poorest of the games we saw, Paul.
Yeah, well, after coming from a long day, a 10-hour day, kind of, I must admit, that kind of put me to sleep, and I missed. Didn't actually watch the Reds, the Force Reds game live, unfortunately. But Cornflake, your thoughts.
Like, it's a bit sad to call the Blues, isn't it? They're giving you guys the Blues for the way they're playing the moment. That's a bit sad. Goodness gracious. Look, to me, Angus Gardner was the star of this show. And boy, he lived up to his name brilliantly, didn't he? I felt so sorry for Rakati Stones. I mean, your guy gets sent off. You got to bring a guy on. He does one scrum, and he gets sent to the pit. I was like, oh, look, send someone else off. It's a poor fella runs on, just runs straight back off. It's like, see you later. But yeah, it was... an intriguing first half, not of the greatest rugby.
If that scrum hadn't been going backwards and it was going to be a penalty try, under any other circumstances, Rakati Stones gives that penalty. He doesn't get the yellow card. It's only because it's a penalty try that he gets the yellow card. So yeah, he's come on from Nemea, who's just been carded. So he's just replaced him to make it. And so you're depowered at the scrum. You're already in trouble at the scrum time anyway. But yeah, so exactly, it was tough on him.
I've been told the only time that basically a yellow card isn't, a penalty try is given out and a yellow card isn't given out, is when the official can't deem to find an offender, even though the front row's gone down, is because he doesn't know who actually caused the actual collapse. So unfortunately for Rakati Stones, he was deemed as the one making the collapse, but they were already under pressure previously at scrum time, and of course losing a player. I think they might have lost Brad Shields as well, who I've got to say, Brad Shields playing some really good rugby at the minute for the Hurricanes. But yeah, like I say, one of those games that just sort of stuttered along, and really it was that Talia try probably the highlight of the game. Low light, obviously, Hoskins Tutu getting red carded, which was the correct decision. And of course, right at the end of the game, when the Blues looked like they tried to pull a little bit of a fast one with a head knock, you basically had an official, a laptop.
Oh.
The only thing that was missing was a lawyer. That's
So yeah, so folks, for you who didn't see this one, we had the scrum half was taken off through injury. The Blues medical officer said it's a concussion, and the independent match doctor was like, "But he hasn't hit his head. I don't think that's not. Where's the concussion?" And so the Blues are trying to get to, because if it's a concussion, a head injury, they get to replace him with a player that's subbed off, i.e., another scrum half that's already come off. And so Gardner went up to the independent doctor and went, "Is it concussion?" And the Blues guys went, "Yes, it is." He's like, "Go away, leave him alone, let him make his own decision, please." So Gardner did. Yeah, was it slow? Was it painful at that part of the game? Yes. Did he handle it decently? And yes. But I think the teams all need to be taken to one side by the Super Rugby and say, "Look, don't do that again," because it makes a bad spectacle of the game at that part, trying to cheat the rules. Let the independent doctor make his decision, and that's final. Don't try and question it.
The thing with seeing Angus Gardner as your referee, though, is he's going to find someone to send off, right? Okay, so don't ever worry about him not finding someone to yellow card. He will find someone. They will have done something. Sneezed.
You guys, you will find that Sam Knock will be out of the Brumbies game this weekend with a calf injury. That's kind of that is what I'm hearing. So unless he's got his brain in his calf, which I don't think he's had. So for me, it was a fast one, and it's a little bit poor form on the Blues. And once again, right at the end there, very contentious scrum penalty, because for me it looked as though the Hurricanes had the dominant scrum, but you've got to keep it square at the end of the day, and hence that was the penalty for. So I think the Blues were a little fortunate to get out of Dodge with the win, guys.
Absolutely, because look, 2 tries to 5, right? The Hurricanes are winning this one through penalty kicks. 1 or 2 of those to the corner, and hey presto, they win this game. Now look, I do agree with. I do like the idea of building a score and keep the scoreboard ticking over, but in this situation where it seemed to me like, yeah, they were, perhaps they could have kept the pressure on the Blues a little bit more, and perhaps have gone for it once or twice in that situation. Because, as I say, 5 tries to 2 shows you that they had opportunities, or they were definitely down that end of the pitch a lot to score more points from that point of view.
I'm going to say not probably the game. I thought Roygaard would be more influential in this game, to be honest, but I don't really know. Apart from one sort of really good break from a high kick take, I don't think he really had the influence. I thought he was good, but I thought probably maybe the 2 or 3 best on the night. I think Harry Godfrey, very unlucky to not make the Super Rugby Pacific Team of the Week, which has been posted on their website. Josh Jacob, who I confess had a pretty good game for the Chiefs. You'd probably run with that at the end of the day. And listen, I thought Ricky Telly, once again, really, really good. Just playing some great rugby at the moment. Just in the wrong time at the wrong place, I guess. And apart from that, it was, like I say, there was nobody else that really put their hand up at the night. Maybe, like I say, Brad Shields, I thought was pretty solid for the Hurricanes.
There you go, England international Brad Shields.
Not Ethan Roots, though. Mm-mm.
He'll come back one day. Oh dear. So moving on to the last game of the round, over in Western Australia, where the Force hosted the Queensland Reds. I remember the Reds coming off having a bye week in the opening round, so this was their second game of the season. And Tizano continued his fantastic season by getting the opening try. And if you're looking for fantasy players, he's racking up the points there. Now, if this fantasy rugby tournament we're in now actually had a salary cap that mattered, These are the kind of players you'd be after, because he's not going to be expensive. Let's be honest. Darcy Swain try also saw the Force jump out to a 14-0 lead, and then the player that the Cornflake thought was worth selecting, Tim Liner, came along, and Fluke, who didn't basically turn up last week. Fluke turned up, and between them, they managed to get it to 17-14 at half time, and soon after half time, 14-21. So 2 tries by Fluke, 1 by Liner, and all the conversions by Liner, obviously. Tizana, though, was not having any of that, and with 10 minutes to go, he got a try, and it was 24-21, and the Force looking good for another win after their win over the Brumbies. Only for another one to go down to a late try, as Don Gunu, who, let's be honest, has moved from the Rebels up back to the Reds. The Rebels was playing a lot at 13, but has got back onto the wing, and has been impressing me over the last game, and he gets a try on 80 minutes in this one to win the game as the Hooters kind of going. So a close one by the Reds. The Western Force definitely, for my mind, being a lot more competitive than I would have given them pre-season credit for, especially when they've got 11 injuries off the pitch as well. So the Western Force, generally a team that we would say doesn't have depth in their squad compared to some of the others. But hey, 11 injuries, and they're still putting in performances like this as well. So good performance by the Force, but unfortunately for them, not quite enough. Cornflake, do you want to go first on this one?
Look, it's clear that the Western Force weren't going to win this game of the death because we didn't see Donaldson limping around and taking heaps of Panadol on the sideline. So if he's healthy, it seems to be the trend that they're not going to win the game. But the game
what Cornflake is basically saying is that the inside centre needs to walk up and just kick his calf hard at about 10 minutes to go.
Do whatever it takes just to make sure that he's limping for a bit before he has to get the match-winning play. But to me, this was a game of 2 halves, especially for the Reds, because they were a lot different side in that second half than they were in the first half. I really think they missed the control that they got from Tom Liner in that first half. It was obvious to see that he just disappeared when he wasn't there. So when he lost the direction, the attacking flair, it went with him. And the Force, just about did enough to win that game to their side. It was a game. I don't think that was very 2025 Super Rugby with the points. There was good defense, which was weird. We saw areas where teams weren't able to score tries, where teams were defensively and structurally getting into good areas and good positions quickly. So look, it was a very much a change up from what we're used to seeing for the last 3 weeks. But look, I'm taking my my lucky cap from this one because boy, my fantasy team was looking absolutely disastrous heading into this game. But even though they didn't play the whole game, Josh Fluke can't play that badly twice in a row. Tommy Line is the best team in Australia. I don't want to pick the Wallabies team either as well. Oh, gee, I don't know. But Donaldson's good. Like, there's a lot. Look, you've got the tier, right? They like the guys like the Lolosios, and they're at the top. But the mix is changing, right? To me, like you've got guys like Donaldson, Liner, Edmead's playing. He's not fantastic. There's a lot of interesting selections that's going to be in this Wallabies team later on. But what I think the Force were really good at, I think we saw a couple of messages from earlier in the chat, was how well the Force shut down Fraser McWright. Harry Wilson was desperately trying to make things happen, but they really did. And you watch McWright in that game, because you can tell where he is. He's a big guy for white scrum cap on. He just could not pick a ruck to attack. He would just trot from ruck to ruck and ruck, and he just had no idea what he wanted to go on, and he was just standing. He was a passenger for most parts of that game. So the Western Force really did their homework well on him. They shut him down, and it was just about enough for them to pick that one up. And when the Force look at their side of things, they've got a guy like Tizano destroying the game by himself. It does give you a little bit of a leapfrog up when you can shut down the opposition like that as well. And Pasatoa as well, another guy who's been really hammered injury-wise, coming back for Australian rugby. Good to see him what is he? He's a 10? Is he a 15? Is he a midfielder? He's been everywhere, but he played pretty well in the midfield for the Force this weekend. So, look, the one player I'm going to pick on, though, was Murray. Oh, man, did he have a shocker? Yeah, the fullback, Hiramara Murray, I think it was, just had an absolute disaster. One amazing run that led to a try where he looked just like the best player in the world. But the rest of the game, yeah, he cost the Reds a fair bit of territory for some errors. So, look, a lot to work on for the Reds, but they look like they got patches of brilliance.
I think the Force might have known that ahead of the game as they kicked 32 times to 18 by the Reds. I think they may have targeted him somewhat.
Definitely.
To be honest, though, I do feel a bit sorry for Hiramaya. The only time I can ever recall him playing fullback was for Northland back in, I think, the beginning of 2022. He played against Canterbury at fullback, and it didn't work out well that night either. So I'm not too sure why they see him in that position. For me, he's either a 13 or a winger. Interesting sort of game, but once again, a couple of standouts for me. I thought Tate McDermott, battle of the two Wallaby nines. Well, I know who I'd be starting with, even though sometimes Schmidt starts with Nick White and McDermott off the bench. I thought McDermott was outstanding. That step which actually created that opportunity for Hiramaya Murray, which should have been a try at the other end, was just absolutely outstanding. And I just love the way that he, with McDermott, he's just got that ability to beat any forwards that are standing around at the ruck. Got basically concrete shoes on, and he's got that step that can beat them. I also thought Uru played very well. Plenty of energy by a guy who can play either 6 or 8 boys. He's a handy guy to have in a squad. Very good. Agree with what Cornflake said about Tom Liner. Just that control. But I think it was one of those games. If the Reds had got it right, I think they would have won this game way comfortably than what it actually turned out to be at the end of the day. And like you said before, I really enjoyed the battle between Tizano and McFreight. Tizano, man, in a beaten team, just came away with the points. And I see he's also in the Super Rugby Pacific Team of the Week as well, and rightly so.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. Look, 4 lost lineouts by the Reds, none by the Force. If you're losing that many lineouts, again, you've not got the platform to attack off quite often. You're wasting opportunities as well. So, as you say, if they got these things right, they could have done. Perhaps they should have been out of sight, but they didn't. And part of that is obviously the opposition starting up. Rugby Ramble says Tizano is going to get Player of the Year at this rate. Well, Tizano and Artie Surveyor, let's be honest, those are the two guys who are both getting 3 points each time by the opposition. So being the strongest player in a weaker team sometimes helps you out for Player of the Year from Dwayne for that stuff.
I was going to say, guys, I just hope the Force haven't used all their get out of free jail cards as they did in the first two games, and hopefully for them they haven't tried up.
I think Rugby Ramble may be my favourite commenter in the chat now after that one. He gets my gold star saying, anyone but T-Mac, please. Sentiments agreed on that one. Look, for the Reds, what I noticed about how the Reds play, when they played fast, they were nigh on unstoppable. Like, there was good defensive patches in there, but you seen they had periods where they were getting the ball in and out of rucks. They were powerful going forward. Like, it's rugby 101, right? That's how you play the game. But when it clicked, and when they were cleaning quickly, getting ball to McDermott, who was getting the ball out to whoever was there, they were next level. That's the thing. Play that for 80 minutes. You could beat anyone, or you should beat anyone who can't do that for 80 minutes. So, look, they've got the pieces in place. And what I do like about the Reds is, like Stephen said with Uru, being able to play in the second row, I like how they brought off one of these second rows, I can't remember who it was, and they moved Uru to the second row, brought on Liam Wright into the back row. So you've got a pack with Uru in the second row, Liam Wright, Fraser McWright, and Harry Wilson. I'm sorry, but that's cheating. To have that many incredible, powerful sort of players in your second row and back row is just crazy. So they've got the kit, they've got the pieces, and they're showing glimpses of what they can do. So look out for the Reds. I think they're going to be a strong contender this season if they can keep improving over these last couple of weeks.
And boy, doesn't that boy Josh Canham, who came from the Rebels, look an absolute athlete as well? Good. He looks like he's about 6'8", and boy, once he fills out, I think he's just in the perfect environment to go from strength to strength.
So a quick look at the table then. The Chiefs are on top with 13 points. Next up is there's 3 teams on 9 points with the Reds, the Highlanders, and the Force. The Waratahs are a point back, and then the next gaggle of teams on 5 points are the Hurricanes, Brumbies, and Blues. Crusaders on 4, Fijian and Drua on 3, and Moana Pacifica on 2. So Drua and Moana Pacifica, the only 2 sides now without wins. The Chiefs and the Reds, the only 2 sides that haven't been beaten yet so far on in this one. But obviously a long way to go. But whilst it might be a long way to go as far as the table is concerned, fantasy rugby, I'm not sure. Maybe some people have already lost it. Maybe you can't win it in the first few rounds, but perhaps you can lose it in the first few rounds. We'll have to wait and see. Looking at the table though, for the points for this round, Wing and a Prayer had the top team for this round. Looking at his team there, Pearce, Riccatelli, and Bell across the front row. Swain, Craig didn't was a bit of an interesting choice there. Only 4 points. Tizano, McWright, and Arlie Surveyor. I think a back row that quite a few people have gone for. Roy Gard, again, another player who didn't perform this week. Dane McKenzie, I think he triple captained this week on DMAC there. But that centre partnership of Ansel Leonard Brown and Quinn Tapia certainly got him a lot of points. And then Dungunu and 2 hyphenates, two names with dots on that I can't remember the names of. But the
Tagi Tau and Talmoy Falau. There you go.
Yep, the 2 from two of the kind of wonder kids or breakout stars this year in his back row there. But so yeah, his clearly got an interesting choice of using your triple captain on McKenzie against the Brumbies. Personally, I would be using that on perhaps the Chiefs versus Moana Pacifica, for example, or something like that. But so interesting early choice on that one. I would suggest there. Jump in if you got any comments, as I'll keep on going, boys.
I'm saving my boosters. I'm saving them. I'm going to kick everyone's ass later on.
So I had a cracking round. I came second this week with
well done,
Stephen down in 10th with Tanny up, and a Cornflake down in 13th. Oh dearie me!
Good round.
Okay, so for me, again, I kind of went heavy on the Force Reds game with as you can see, Pearce, Parecki, Smith, McWright, Tizano, Peach, Dylan Peach at the back there. Didn't all pay off, but a few of them did, like Tizano and Pearce. I went for Tapia and Talia in my centre pairing, so finally getting some pay out of there. And as I mentioned earlier, Tool finally scored a bloody try for me as well in there. But yeah, you have to have DMAC and you have to be capturing him, I'm afraid. Looking at Stephen's team.
See, that's what you do. That's the DMAC killer right there. Although he still lets me down, but still, captain.
Captain Arlie Surveyor, which really saved the day for Stephen Harris. But Firelingy, and Namia, and Rico Iwani, really those a number of players there who let you down, Stephen.
Yeah, Namia getting sent to the bin straight away. Certainly didn't help. Karifi always plays a great game against the Blues. That's why I pretty much went for him. And to be honest, a little bit quiet at the night. And like I said about Roy Gard, I thought Roy Gard was relatively quiet, and for some reason unknown to men. And I guess we'll never know. I swapped Quinty Pyre out for Rico Ioane, thinking that stupid me, thinking that he'll come up with a big game because he's got his critics at the moment. Can't really defend him anymore, really. Once again, I thought he was pretty quiet on the night. Ended up getting a yellow card as well, which certainly didn't help his course. And Tamoy Falau, who's been pretty good. Yeah, and I decided not to really look at anybody in the last game. I did think about Tizano, so another mistake on my part, but I went for Karifi instead. So, it was looking pretty before that final game last night, but not to be, guys.
Yeah, Antonio Brown was a bit of an inspired pick, though, because he hasn't done much so far. And I'll be honest, Narwhal playing well. I just don't know why he's not getting points. So another guy who I think, a bit like, Dungunu is a player that I think he's playing really well, but I would never put him in my fantasy team because he's not getting points. But I think he's actually playing well. There's playing well and there's playing fantasy well, or doing things that get you points. They can be different sometimes. Cornflake, what went wrong? Or what went right?
Nothing went wrong. A lot went right there. Probably not the great captain decision, but hey, that's always a lottery. But look, apart from maybe Numia's got to go. That was his last strike for me on that one, much like Stephen. I kept him in because he was consistently getting 20s for the first couple of rounds. Riccatelli is an absolute monster. I don't think he'll ever leave my team until the Blues have a bye. I was
surprised to see him do that against the Hurricanes. I was thinking, he's not going to have a great game against them, but he did.
He really did. Pierce is a good call as well. Yeah.
Yeah, Riccatelli's always going to play against the Hurricanes because obviously he played for that franchise before. Mm-hmm. So these guys. There's always a point to prove when they're playing against their old team. I suppose one player you will have to swap out is Fluke because that injury that he had
and
when he came off. Yeah, and Liner. They both kind of look pretty serious, and of course they've got a tough ask. And I know we'll get to that in a moment when they go to Christchurch next Sunday. So, mate, I think your selections are pretty consistent at the end of the day, and you're really only let down by Numia.
Yeah, Fluke was
and Nasi as well.
Sticking with Fluke was a good call.
Look, there's a number of guys that you're not going to drop, right? For me, Riccatelli is a lock-in. I think that back row, I don't see much reason aside from buys to really change much on that. And Tupaia, the back three is getting rough, but now you've got the Highlanders on a bye, so you can play a little bit. The Crusaders coming back. Do you go with those lads? It's tough, right? Tamoi Falau was a leading point scorer heading into round 3, and then he drops an 18. So there's a lot of luck into it. Where do you go? Yeah, so it's a lot of luck. That's what makes it fun, right? You can't check the system and just bulldoze your way through. You got to time it right. This team could have scored triple that last week, or it could score the triple it next week. You just don't know. That's what makes it fun.
But I think there's a couple of common themes though coming through here. Is that if you see a scrum half injured and replaced late on, go for his replacement because they've late replacement scrum halves have done really well. If you can find a winger who's from sevens, they've also been doing quite well because with down in the Highlanders and and also the Chiefs. So that's also been another key kind of sort of topic of this season coming through. So those are the two kind of themes I wasn't expecting this year to come through on those ones. To be honest, and then I guess the odd player who's playing out of position. So you've got DMAC at 15, but you've also got Toa Tavanawe, who's a back three player playing as a centre. So hence, I don't think he's actually a good call. So there's a few there like that. I've gone blank. One of the Crusaders players is listed as a lock, but actually is a Lucy, and therefore has been
Grace,
getting good
isn't
points.
it?
Grace as well. So Grace is kind of that. So look out for those kind of picks as well from as far as fantasy goes. So yes, let's look forward to next week on in the old Super Rugby. We kick off on Friday with just one game because you know what? Let's keep consistency so people know when to turn on the TVs. So on Friday we've got the Blues versus the Brumbies at 7 p.m. With on that one. That's a bit of a hard one to pick, I think. Obviously at home the Blues are going to be his favourites. I would suggest because but the Brumbies up and down. Look, against the Force, you're thinking, oh geez, these guys are not doing so well. But then again, away from home, they beat the Drua in Fiji. They pushed the Chiefs really hard. Are they a better team away from home than actually at home? Which is kind of a weird one. So that's not as easy a pick as you'd think. The Drua up against the Chiefs. The Drua have lost all 3 opening games, and the Chiefs have won all of theirs. But remember, that first game that the Fijian and Drua had, that was in Suva. They are back at Latakoa. Save me. Lautoka, thank you. Lautoka for this one. And remember, the only other loss before this year was in Suva that they had actually at home in Fiji. They've never lost at this ground. Yes, Chiefs go in as big favourites, I would expect, on the TAB. But look, history suggests actually this should be this might be a draw win. More Pacifica versus the Hurricanes. I'll be honest, I'm loading up on Hurricanes for fancy rugby for this one. Wow, you're not with me on this one, Cornflake. Your basic question is giving you away there.
Result-wise, yes, I think the Hurricanes will win. Will it be a smashing blowout? And I don't believe it'll be a smashing blowout. But I think they'll win. But yeah, not in that regard. It's hard to look. I don't think there's bad teams anymore. I just don't think. I don't think we're going to see 40-point smashings anymore in Super Rugby. I think that's the thing of the past. You're going to see 40 points, but you're going to see 40 points to 39.
So different advice there on for your fantasy points, but I think that I think there'll be some fancy points there. Yes, it might be a high scoring game both ways, but still I think there's fancy points for the Hurricanes players there. Tars versus the Force. Look, I mean the Force have beat the Brumbies in Canberra. The Tars now look, they've had 2 wins. They're undefeated going into this round. But not necessarily totally convincing wins from that point of view. So I'm expecting a close one there. Clearly, the Tars will be slight favourites, though.
Yeah, got to go. I was going to say, their coach, is it Dan McKellar? He's not entirely, even though they're unbeaten, he's actually not entirely happy with the way their team has actually been going. He's criticised their performance, and I think that he's actually exactly. I have to go with nocturnal rights at the Waratahs, even though they've won, they're not playing well. But I think they will hit their straps against the Force.
And then finally, the Crusaders versus the Reds. The Reds look undefeated this season. The Crusaders obviously are better than last year because they've got a win so far. So again, it's another tightish one there. So look, whilst again Crusaders throughout this, you can easily point at who is the favourite for each of these. But as you say, I wouldn't be surprised if again we have 4 games that pick up losing bonus points that are within a score from this current round of games. It's Back in the day, it was if you were doing picking, it was pick the New Zealand team, and then actually look at what the games were.
If I was going to pick my results from this one, it's not an easy round overall, but look, it'll be all home except for the Hurricanes. I think the Reds are probably the only one that I'd flip on because potential on selections. If they lose, like Stephen was saying before, Fluke, Liner, and guys like that, I think I'd edge the Crusaders. If those guys are fit, I'd probably edge the Reds. But based on what's happened over the weekend, for me, all home except for the Canes. Go the Drua.
Wow, you're big on the Drua against the Chiefs. Wow.
Yeah.
I'm actually going the same way. I just think Adi Savia will be up for this up for this game. Listen, Moana are actually so close, and I think there'll be just so much to play for. It's a game that I'm going to next Saturday night, so I'm very much looking forward to it. I actually can see the Blues and the Crusaders. I think they're going to hit their straps. These 2 teams in the home game. So, yeah, maybe the hardest ones to basically pick. Maybe that Fijian and Drua Chiefs game, especially if Damien McKenzie is not there. That brings them back to the pack. On the upside, Sean Stevenson will be a massive acquisition for this Chiefs side. But, yeah, I think I'll have a fair idea when all these teams are announced on Wednesday, guys, and to see who's out of the injury ward and ready to go.
Yeah, like we said, the 70-odd injuries going into this one. We've named at least 3 or 4 players that have been taken off injured that are doubtful. Some absolutely, definitely no chance they're coming back on. If you've been taken off on the on the cart, you're not playing the following week. Let's be honest, you shouldn't be. Injury enforcement's clearly, folks. So keep an eye out. Is DMAC playing or not? Also, you're going to have to replace your Highlanders players, right? They're going to be out of action, but coming back are your Crusaders, as we've already said. I've gone blank. Who did I say as the help me, Cornflake, the lock? Who isn't a lock?
Grace.
Thank you, Cullum Grace in there. Also, obviously, you've got Reese and Will Jordan as well. Your big kind of scorers. So look at don't forget those players when picking your fantasy team. Leave it till Thursday when you've seen all the selections is what I would suggest, and then it'll all show up actually on the site itself for that one.
And I was going to say Hoskins Satutu unlikely to feature for the Blues.
Yes,
as well. But given that he didn't rock up for the first round, I'm pretty sure they'll find an able replacement. You'll probably see Cameron Saw-4 move back into that 8th position. Must admit, impressed with young Cam Christie, the New Zealand 20s lock loose forward who actually came on as well. Looks a real comer as well. So, yeah, interesting weekend. Looking forward to it.
To wrap things up, we've got three Super Rugby, Six Nations games to quickly go over as well. Ireland versus France, that is the pick of the weekend. That's at 3:15 a.m. our time on Sunday. The TAB have Ireland by $1.80 to $2.05 for France. And look, Ireland clearly go in as favourites for this one. But look, this French team, as we've said before, can be anybody on their day. But unfortunately, they do occasionally have they seem to have one-off game or one or 12 games each tournament. Hence, we saw that against England previously. It's hard to look past Ireland though because they have looked so good. Boys, are you do you obviously this one's the closest, but Cornflake shaking his head.
Look, we've got to mix it up, right? We've got to have that game where Ireland trip up. We've got to really throw the cat amongst the pigeons and leave to the final round. So for that, we need France to show up and set things alight. So yeah, give me a little bit of French flair for the opening game this weekend.
There's need and there's what I expect to happen. So yes, we need that, but I expect Ireland to win. Stephen,
I expect it to happen.
Yeah, not much splitting these guys in the TAB. Ireland $1.80, France $2.05. Really looking forward to the battle of the halves. Gibson Park, Pendergast versus DuPont, and also Intermac. That's gonna be box office.
Is Intermac back from his ban?
I'm not 100% sure. I'm not 100% sure.
I think he might be only back for the last game. So might be Jalabert in there, which case, hey, that's even more fun because you've got no idea what's going to happen.
Or Ramos.
Or Ramos if they go that way. Next up then, Scotland versus Wales, and the TAB is very clear on this one. $1.08 for Scotland and $7.50 for Wales. So clearly, even after Wales pushed Ireland, with the much improved performance by selecting players who actually play in those positions for their clubs. What a surprise! The TAB still think Scotland are very strong favourites for that one, and I think we're probably all on that page. Final game of the round. So that's at 5:45 on Sunday. Final game of the round, 4 a.m. on Monday morning. England versus Italy. England at $1.01 because Italy have never beaten England ever. Italy at $15. And of course, off the back of that absolute thumping by France in the second half there that we mentioned earlier. Again, look, quite clearly, if you don't go for the home team, you're probably mad. Says the Englishman.
Put $2 on Italy. Put $2. then if the world comes to an end, you might make $10.
The 30. Clearly because it's $15, right? You make get the $2. There goes Cornflake. Cornflake because the Cornflake is basically our Izzy Dag of the Super Rugby kind of.
Jeez, that's almost offensive. Ouch! Oh, at least I'm not Joey Wheeler. I guess I'll take it.
Cool. Thank you, everybody. Look, I say back to Monday next week rather than the Sunday show. I think it's going to be so. Have a cracking one, everybody. Stay safe. Enjoy the rugby. There's plenty of it coming up.